it's Bernadette. If you don't know me, I am the channel and creator of the Arc Animal Oracle. Arc Animal Tarot and Oracle deck. You'd think I'd get that right? I actually was the publisher until I just recently was lucky enough to get the Arc signed with Satyama Publishing. Something I said I would never do was go with a publisher, but she convinced me. She's magic, and she's doing great magic things for the Arc and for me. So thank you very much, Karen. We very much appreciate being part of the Satyama team. So I am starting to create a series of tarot reading videos because I've had so many people ask me about giving classes in tarot reading, classes in psychic development, that kind of thing, which I have done over the years, many of them as a matter of fact, but this is information I'd really like for the world to see, and not everyone in the world is going to take my tarot reading or psychic development or any of those kind of classes, even though I am concentrating this year on creating more virtual opportunities for that, for the most obvious reasons. This was filmed in, for those of you who might be watching this years in advance, this was filmed in 2020 when the whole world had to go on lockdown because of the coronavirus. So I will dive deep into the tarot card meanings, and I'm going to use my deck, the Arc, and I'm also going to consistently refer back to the Rider-Waite Tarot, which is the tarot reading system that I based the Arc on. And there's another system out there. I don't know it. I don't use it. I've heard it called the Lenormand. I've heard lots of different pronunciations about it, but I don't know that system, so I don't really use it at all. I can't speak to it. But I can speak to how to read tarot. I can speak to really the question that is the first question that people should ask, which is, it might seem very elementary, but you know what tarot cards are, right? No matter what tarot card deck there is out there, they've got beautiful images on them, archetypal imagery that speaks to the journey of tarot, which if I just give I won't go into the history and all that. You can look that up on Wikipedia. But when you speak about tarot and you understand the Rider-Waite system, there's a major arcana, which is, kind of the journey to self, our trip through the universe. And then there's the minor arcana, which is broken up into suits, right? That's, what does that universe look like? What players, what situations are coming to us in that journey? And so you can use tarot for divination, obviously. You can look into the past, you can see the present, you can peek into the future. You can use it as a spiritual awakening tool. You can use it as a soul guidance tool. Really, any question that you could possibly have, you can use tarot to get that answer. And it doesn't matter which deck. And I'm going to get into more of that in a minute, because what I teach is intuitive tarot. So even though through this series, yes, I'll be diving really deep into the meaning of each tarot card, its symbolism, what it could possibly mean in a reading for yourself, or if you're, really exploring how to give tarot card readings to other people. It all doesn't matter, meaning it doesn't matter what you're using it for. Whatever question you could possibly have, the tarot will give you an answer, which really means that the question beginners should be asking, and almost never do, is how does tarot work? How tarot cards work may not seem like a valid question. You're like, well, duh, they just, you shuffle them, some people split them into 3 sections, and then they'll have a reader that, puts the different sections on top of each other based on their intuition or their gut, or the reader will do that. Some readers will tell you, no one ever touches my cards but me. Some readers will tell you that they dance naked with them in their tarot cards in the light of the full moon once a month to cleanse them, and everything in between. And we're going to go into all of that, because what works for Some people may not work for you at all. Bernadette doesn't dance naked in the light of any full moon ever for any reason. Okay, well, let me not say for any reason, but that's another story in another video for another time. So, but not with her tarot cards. So, and I don't really necessarily cleanse my tarot cards. Again, a video for an additional video about cleansing tarot cards, because it does pay to think about the energy that's collected in that tangible deck, right? In each card, in the paper, the accumulated energy, the accumulated electricity that goes in and out of them. So, getting back to how to read tarot cards, and I've said that the question you really need to be asking is how tarot cards work. Okay, I don't know. So we're done with the video. Thanks for showing up. No. My experience, the reason I say I don't know is my experience has been, no matter who I'm reading for, no matter what deck I'm using, and I mean I can be using a deck that I've never seen before, I don't know any of the cards in, I don't know any of the imagery in, and let me just say, speaking to that, there are tens of thousands of tarot card decks out there, tens of thousands, and I would bet that the vast majority of them are based on the Rider-Waite tarot system. However, the imagery can be as different as, I've got animals for mine. There are other animal decks out there. People use, there's one, one of my favorites is called the Housewife Tarot. And it's a throwback, it's a retro deck that looks like all things 1950s, moms and baking and dads, very Leave It to Beaver-y kind of thing. I love it. It's adorable. It is, just the artwork is amazing. And then the descriptions are just lovely. And I use that. And it's completely different imagery than in my own deck or the traditional tarot deck, the traditional Rider-Waite deck. So when I teach tarot, I always teach intuitive tarot. Now, that's not to take away that I'm not saying that you shouldn't greatly familiarize yourself with the symbolism of each card. I'm not saying that. I actually am saying that you should, and I'm also saying that it doesn't matter what deck you read with. It doesn't matter what card you pull, because how tarot cards work is magic. I don't have any better explanation for it than that. And let me tell you why I say that. The right card seems to fall for the right person in the right place at the right time every single time I pick up a deck. And I don't mean every single time Bernadette picks up a deck, I'm so special. I'm not. Believe me, I'm not. Believe me. What I am saying is that however it happens, there are some theories on that, ranging from literally pixies and fairies come in the middle of the night and arrange the cards the way they know they're going to need to fall for you and your client the next day. Some people say that it is their spirit guides that arrange the cards. Some people say that the universe orchestrates everything. Okay, I believe that. I also believe that when I pick up my deck, I have used these cards so much that maybe somebody comes in for a reading and I'm shuffling, and I pull the River Otter card, okay? So as you can see, that's the Six of Cups, and loosely, just an overall view is the otter is about reunion, reminiscing, and your inner child. Okay, and that's, if you look at the traditional, I didn't know I was going to pull that card. I won't take you through the horror of me searching for the Six of Cups in here, but actually I'll look for it while I keep talking. So let's say that person, okay, so Six of Cups, here we go. It was right there, imagine that. Okay, so that's the traditional Six of Cups, all right? And how sweet is that? Just a very sweet card. And you can look up what the Six of Cups means in the Rider-Waite, but it means basically that, right? reunion, reminiscing, the child at heart, or the quote-unquote child inside. And so maybe, actually, because I've had it happen, I had someone come in years ago and pulled the, God, I was just reminded of that. I pulled the Six of Cups, and I was really curious, because it was way, way back when I was a beginning reader, which explains why it didn't come to the front of my forehead. That was many, many years ago. And I'm kind of looking at this card, and I'm thinking, okay, well, my gut, my instincts tell me it's not the happy card that it appears to be for this lady. Now, that's a pretty happy, joyous card. Aw, giving, there he is giving gifts to her, and, the gold chalices are filled with these beautiful white, divinely colored white flowers. Everything looks happy, everything looks healthy. Well, come to find out, this woman was having a stroke out because there was a family reunion coming up and she didn't want to go. And she just knew that was going to cause a hullabaloo in her family, that even though she really didn't want to go, and I mean for some really deeply disturbing reasons, like abuse in her family that had never been addressed, she was never believed, on and on and on. The family reunions for this woman were just torture. Of course she didn't want to go. But did she want to, take the flack or take the punishment, as she called it, for the next year until there was another family reunion, or 2 years, whenever there was another family reunion? So it might seem like I've gone around the circle to come back to how tarot cards work, but in this instance, what I think possibly happened is, well, at that time I was using Rider-Waite. So I'm flipping through the Rider-Waite deck, and intuitively I feel I should stop and pull XYZ card. Happened to be the Six of Cups. Right? Okay. No such thing as coincidence. It's all amazing synchronicity. Potentially what happened was, I have a psychic link with my cards, and psychometry is the psychic ability to hold something that you've never seen before, or that you have seen before, or felt, or held, and have a relationship with, either way, but not knowing what it is. Like if I hold this card up to you now, psychically, what do you get? What do you think is behind this blue, golden, starry background? Take a second. It's the King of Pentacles. Now, you may have gotten coins. You may have gotten a lot of the color yellow. You could have picked up on all kinds of things. You could have seen a bull, which is at the bottom of his throne, the top of his throne, because he stands for Taurus. I mean, you could have seen the castle in the back, which is pretty standard in a Rider-Waite card. But there's all kinds that you could have seen, a scepter. There's all kinds of things that you could have gotten a psychic impression of. And I, or you, anybody going through a deck, could feel the psychometric energy of intuitively while you're linking to a client. And that's how you know to pull that card. So, of course, that's one big way that tarot cards work, is through psychometry. But that psychometry won't matter unless you're psychically linked to the person that you're reading for, which is why Bernadette doesn't recommend that people read for themselves. You're too invested in the outcome. And if you're using a deck that you're very familiar with, and the deck is familiar with you, you're going to have a tendency to pull the cards that paint the best case scenario picture or the worst case scenario picture, depending on how you feel about the situation, person, thing, or whatever. So, going back to how tarot cards work. Some people think fairies, pixies, elves. Some people think their spirit guides manipulate them. Some people think God, angels, whatever manipulate them to be in the right alignment for the right person at the right time on the right day, assuming it's the same day or the next day. And I've even done experiments where when I had my shop and when I had then my office, I did experiments where at the end of my day, I would cleanse my cards energetically. I'd cleanse myself, I'd cleanse the room, I'd cleanse the store, and I would focus on the first client coming in. I'd shuffle the deck and I'd leave a card sitting up for that first client. And every single solitary time, and we're talking thousands of readings, you guys, thousands of readings, every single time, whoever the first client was, and I would take that card and I would explain to them and say, does this have anything to do with the reason you're here today? Jaws, wham, 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 hitting the floor, hitting the floor, hitting the floor, because they were so shocked. How did you know that? Well, without going into a whole long explanation, I took a remote viewing class with an amazing, amazing legend named Joseph McMoneagle. Look up the Stargate program. He and Russell Targ and a few other fellows that were in the military were tapped from the military intelligence to put together a class or a research into remote viewing, which is basically the taking of your consciousness and projecting it or sending it traveling. They're not sure. There's no 100% science to prove any of this stuff, right? Okay. But other governments were using, tarot readers and astrologers and fortune tellers and palm readers and psychics and mediums and everything in between. And the American government was the last to catch up on this. But anyway, Joseph McMoneagle, look him up. And in that class, I learned how to project my consciousness to get an extremely, extremely evidential and accurate psychic read, complete with pictures drawn, of information, a picture that was going to come to me the next day that no one knew. No one knew what it was. The pictures are randomly generated from a computer generator that's got over 30,000 pictures in the database. When it comes out upside down. A secretary takes it, folds it, puts it in an envelope, hands it to, the class people that are helping, and then they literally randomly stand in class, and there's nothing on the envelopes. There's nothing written. Nothing. I think, you know what? They even shuffled the envelopes. As a matter of fact, they shuffled the envelopes. I'm like, what the heck are they doing? And then they randomly hand out the envelopes, and there were 3 of us in class, 2 of us with crazy over-the-top details. Somehow we knew what was going to be in those pictures, down to being able to draw it and identify the things that were in it, to such a degree that it couldn't possibly be argued that it was luck of the draw or it would make sense because the pictures were only going to be a certain, set of themes or typing or whatever. Completely random. And yet it wasn't. Okay. So I want to tell you a story because I want to go a little farther into how tarot cards work. Because once you make up your mind on this, or once, I think, in my personal opinion as a teacher, it's even better, stronger. It's a much stronger choice if you decide that you will keep your mind open to all the possibilities. I love the thought of pixies and fairies and elves coming into my house in the middle of the night. I wish they would do my dishes, but listen, if they're just going to arrange my tarot cards, okay, that's a gift that I didn't have, and I would take it. I love the idea of the universe orchestrating all kinds of things. I love the idea of psychometry because that tells me, that's a sign to me as a psychic, as a shamanic journeyer, a shamanic practitioner. Listen, you guys, there's like 9,000 terms that describe that psychic-y, intuition-y, shamanic-y kind of thing. So you'll see me using the terms interchangeably, and probably, then there's clairvoyant and clairaudient and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, there is a story that I absolutely, positively, I think about this story almost every week. And I know I for sure tell this story every week because it is absolutely the most incredible tarot anything that I've ever been a part of. So, I live in Gainesville, Florida. There's a university here. And in my door one day walks this young student who I'd never seen before. And she sits down and I went, wow. I said, are you doing something with animals? She said, I'm in vet school. And she was so shocked, and her face turned white as a ghost. And I was like, are you okay? And she's like, I've never had a reading before. She said, she said, did you really see the animals? And I went, without sounding like a total head case, yes. The room in back of you disappeared, and all I could see, so kind of like a Dr. Dolittle-y kind of thing, just lots of different kinds of animals and tons of them. So we get through her reading, and at the very end of the reading, and I just did a straight up psychic reading, but I had several different decks laying on my desk. And at the end of her reading, she said, could I ask you one more question? I said, sure. She asked me, are those tarot cards? I said, of various kinds, yes, and oracle cards. She said, well, how do they work? And I said, well, you're going to be you're in vet school, so let's choose the animal deck. So at the time, and I still do, I love this deck, The Secret Language of Animals, by Chip Richards, I think is his name. Yeah, Chip Richards. It's the animal deck that I used for years and years and years before I made my own. So it's an oracle deck. It's not a tarot deck. And, I wasn't going to go into the whole long explanation about tarot and how tarot works and all that. She just wanted to have a card flipped. Okay. So I'm shuffling the deck, and fling! Out flies this card. And if you've ever shuffled a tarot deck, read for yourself or read for anyone else, you know the fun it can be when a card just comes flipping out, or cards kind of randomly fall out, and there's 2 or 3 or 4 of them, and lo and behold, those cards are exactly for that person. That's part of the magic. Who can explain that, right? Okay. But this card went whee all the way across my desk, landed on the desk, spun a couple of times, and landed in front of her just like this. It was craziness. So she and I looked at each other and just busted out laughing. And then she looked down, she pulled the card a little closer to her, and then she started shaking, and she started bawling her eyes out, and I was like, and she's given me permission to use her name in anywhere that I want to tell the story. So because it is integral to the story itself. So I said, Hope, honey, are you okay? I said, I didn't mean to upset you. What's wrong, sweetheart? And she's pointing to the card, and she's pointing to the card. Okay. So she's pointing to this card, and me, I'm looking at the animal, and I'm thinking, albatross? Who cares? Like, I don't see how this has to do with her at all. Okay, it's a journey. We've already established she's in college, blah, blah, blah. We've already talked about the endurance part of this. We know how hard vet school can be, because it is. And then, like, I'm looking at faith and hope, and I'm like, and she's like, and then it hit me. Her name is Hope. Durr. Okay. Earlier in the reading, I said to her, because she'd never had a reading before, and I'm a medium, I'm an evidential medium. Actually, that's how I got my start in the business, was studying evidential mediumship, okay? And I said, Hope, honey, have you lost a sibling? And she said, yes. She said, my twin died in vitro, and, then we had a conversation about twins and being a twin and not growing up with your twin and, having your twin taken from the womb, while you're also in the womb. And, it was like this really deep, for some kid who'd never had a reading before, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine. And she was just so open and so kind and so just anyway. But when she saw this card, okay, so her name is on it, Hope. But then she laid a big whammy on me. Her twin's name was to be Faith. So here I am talking to her twin sister, who didn't incarnate fully into this world, and I'm getting mediumship messages from her identical twin, and then this card, the deck that I happened to pull because it happened to be laying on my desk. And at that time, this was like 12 or 13 years ago or more. And at that time, I used regular tarot and other kinds of oracle cards, actually more than I used the animals, because at the time, my clients didn't seem to have such a huge interest in the shamanic part of it or the animal part of it, even though I loved them and I always did. I used other kinds of cards. So this card deck just happened to be sitting there. I just happened to be shuffling it, and this card just happens to fly out and happens to land in front of this kid with the names of her and her twin. Okay. Psychometry, I can explain that away. I can explain away, other theories, which is, I can explain other theories, theoretically. Okay. But how a card literally flies out of a deck and lands in front of that person to this kind of precision, can't explain that. Can't explain that at all, except for to say, as far as I'm concerned, my opinion is, this is how we know, this is how we can believe in something that we can't necessarily see, which is help from the other side. That's all I got at this moment. That's all I've got. So if you're just getting started reading tarot, even if you've been reading tarot for a while, and sometimes, I've spoken to quote unquote tarot masters who, in their minds, you only give a reading. Only. Whatever that card is. Kitty cat, Page of Swords, because I want a Maine Coon cat so bad. I can't stand it. Like, I need another cat. You put the story together of someone's reading only based on the traditional meanings of that particular card and the story that those cards tell when you use whatever tarot card spread. And there are a gajillion of them, you guys. There's there are the very classic 3-card spread, past, present, future. There's the Celtic cross. There's the Northwest, East, South. There's they're not, they're not even all the rest of them are not even coming to my mind, because I have so many really good tarot friends who are really, really amazing readers. They make up their own spreads. If somebody comes in and they want to know about their wedding, they do a wedding spread. If they want to know about a health issue, they've got a health issue spread that they do, and everything in between, and all kinds of shapes, how they spread the cards, how many cards they pull. Then, are you the kind of reader that does the upright meanings of the tarot cards? Do you do the reversed tarot card meanings? Some people don't want the energy of reversal in there at all. They do not read reversals. Okay. I don't do any of that. I am strictly an intuitive tarot reader. If you want me to flip your tarot cards, I can do that. And I often use the Arc. I often use that for a lot of reasons. Some of which are, if I'm feeling a little laggy when I step into someone's energy, I want to be sure that I'm more clear, so I'll pick a couple of cards, but I don't put them in any order. I don't tell a story with them. Kind of each card stands on its own, and it's worked really, really well so far. And once I get through what that card is telling me for that client, because let's just take, for instance, let's take this cat, just because it's such a universal theme. Okay, so I pull a cat card for a client, and it's the Page of Swords. Okay, that's about landing on your feet. That's about primal instincts. That's about cutting through all the rhetoric. That's about, bringing messages. But there sits this cat. And for the moment when I look at that cat has such a far away, maybe insightful is the word that I'm looking for. That cat is looking so deeply into my eyes that I would first probably ask a client, who is it or what is it that you're studying so hard? And that would lead me to something probably like, I just feel like there's a tremendous distrust. It could be that. I might say, wow, you're really working on your psychic development, aren't you? Because you are looking into people's souls. Or I might say, and this is just based on the look that the cat has on its face, how I interpret it at that moment for that client. I might say something like, you're having some health issues, huh? Because you are digging deep into looking inside yourself. Or I might say that you are in the healing arts of some kind, and you're thinking about going back to school or you're in school. Any of those things could be possible. I just have to allow my intuition. I just have to go on the shamanic journey. I just have to let the psychic third eye part of me, my crown chakra, just everything open up and take it in. Or it might be as simple as, you having problems with a redhead? It could be as simple as that. I don't know. Meaning, I don't know till the client sits in front of me. See how the cat has its tail curved in front of it? I might ask, now, cats don't curve their tails in front of them that I know of to protect themselves. They don't, that I know of. Watch, somebody will email me and go, oh my God, that's like cat behavior 101. I didn't know. But I might take a look at that tail curved in front of the cat, and I might say, you're considering whether to hand someone your balance. And usually that's within the confines of a relationship of some kind, whether romantic or you're trusting a business partner, or, you've got to get on some kind of team at work or trust your boss or whatever. I think it will be okay for you to trust them. Meaning, taking a look at that tail. A tail is how cats keep their balance. And it's in front of him. It's late. Well, I think it's a him. It might be a girl kitty. I don't know. So it's that tail is just laid bare, like someone would take their heart and they would just lay it on the ground in front of someone and say, here, I'm presenting you with my balance, right? My heart. It could be that. It could be it could be not about the cat at all. There are pink flowers in the back, which I believe, I'm pretty sure those are azaleas. I happen to be very familiar with azaleas. I live in the South. And they're beautiful when they put on a display. It could be as simple as something about gardening, something about the color of pink, which is the color of love. And there isn't a living soul on this earth that loves themselves more than a cat does. And pink is the color of unconditional love for self and for everything and everybody. And I might say, how you coming with your work on unconditional self-love? That might be what comes out. All from the Page of Swords. And I've barely even talked about the Page of Swords. And in another card, I really won't go digging for it because I didn't know I was going to pull it, but the Page of Swords in the traditional, actually hold up, if you give me 2 seconds, I will look it up on my website. The Page of Swords, the imagery is a young man or woman in, a crimson colored tunic with yellow tights and hot red shoes and a sword and some, on a hill and some clouds and some blue in the back. Okay. But if you know that the Page of Swords correlates to the element of air, now you know it's all about thoughts and keeping your mind agile and having lots and lots of energy, almost like a hurricane or a whirlwind or a tornado. It could be that much. The zodiac sign that it correlates to is Libra. And because it's all about clear thinking and thought, a clear quartz crystal would be a great crystal to use with that. Okay. If you happen to know all of that other stuff, whether you pull an animal card or you pull somebody else's interpretation of the Page of Swords or the Knight of Wands or the King of Pentacles or whatever, you'll have all of this knowledge to draw from, and still none of that may matter. It may come down to literally, I put the card away. Oh, no, I didn't. It may come down to the pink azaleas on a card. That's it. That's intuitive tarot. Holy guacamole, are there people that argue with that? Okay. Can I do a Celtic cross spread? Of course I can. Can I do a 3-card spread? Of course I can. Can I do any kind of spread there is that anybody puts in front of me? Of course I can. Of course you can. That's not the point. How tarot cards work is up to you and your deck. That's it. That's it. And some days you may want to go with and for some clients or even yourself, like I said, I don't recommend reading for yourself. Again, there are those who will vehemently argue with it, about it. But no matter who you're pulling the cards for or why, the belief, the trust that the right card is going to come for the right person at the right time on the right day. And oh, by the way, you're going to be a clear channel and you're going to be able to successfully interpret that message, even based on one other story. This will prove this to you. So I'm in New Mexico, and I went to an absolutely beautiful ceremony with a very experienced, she's a master tarot teacher. Her name is Cheryl Ryder. She's amazing. And this was like an all-day event, right? So like we made, she's going to kill me. I can't think of the name of them. Offerings that had candies and fruits and lots of different things folded inside of it's a very shamanic ritual, folded inside of a cloth, and then you present that on the fire, and you do all kinds of things, right, at this fire ceremony. And so there was a break in between the first part of the day where we made that, gosh, I can't think of the name of it. We made that thing. It was a lot of fun. We learned a lot. It was so beautiful. We didn't want to put it in the fire. We all wanted to keep part of it. And then there were a few hours in between that and then when everybody showed up for the fire ceremony. So I was sitting at a table with one of my bestest friends who had gone with me on this trip, which ultimately had started in Sedona. Oh, Sedona. And we didn't know anybody else there, and there were, 6 or 7 other people there. So I was like, well, hey, why don't we play a game? Everybody's got their tarot decks with them, right? Right, yeah. Okay, so let's just all get out our tarot decks and pass our tarot deck along to someone else. And, but make sure if you take that tarot deck from whoever it is, make sure that you have never seen it before. So my friend who was with me, who'd gone on vacation with me, she looked at this card that this person pulled, and she said, I'm drawn to the thumb on this card. And I believe it was the Knight of Swords. And he's grasping, in the picture, he's grasping a sword where you can see his thumb. In the traditional Rider-Waite Tarot, and in this version, I don't remember the deck, but it was this version of Rider-Waite Tarot. So we all started laughing, but the lady whose deck it was went, I have had unbelievable surgeries on this thumb. And when you looked, the thumb wasn't misshapen. There were no scars that anybody could have seen. It couldn't have been about that. Well, what's so hilarious is, so a fella joined us a little bit later for dinner when the ceremony, and when he came in the door, he put down, it was a potluck, so he puts down this cake that he brought, which instantly made him perfect and famous for all of us, because he brought this giant, delicious, chocolatey, yummy sheet cake. And somebody asked him, well, hey, how you doing? And he turns around and he goes, and we all busted out laughing because we had just had this whole thing about intuitive tarot and how hilarious it was. Not hilarious, the lady had thumb surgery, right, and was probably going to have more. But of anything that my friend could have been drawn to on this card, poof, it was the thumbs. So now we're at 2 thumb things for the evening. Okay. So we get through the evening, and a gal that was there, her son came to pick her up. And I was busy in the kitchen doing something. And there was just this huge burst of laughter from behind me. So, of course, I turn around, I'm like, hey, what's the joke? How come I'm not in on it? And people are dragging this massive kid. He's like 6'4". He's just this big football-looking player kid. They're like dragging this kid towards me in the kitchen. And he's like, what? And they're like pointing and laughing. And on his shirt was an anime character with his thumb straight out, like really straight out in front of him, just like that, like I'm doing. And there was the 3rd thumb thing for the evening. Too hilarious. So, you know, again, people can argue, well, if you give, let's say that you give your deck to your client and ask them to shuffle it, that puts their energy in it, you know, without ever having handled your cards. They can still feel the psychometry, even if they're not, you know, like, what cards pertain to me. This is at a very deep psychic level that I absolutely believe exists because I experience it every day of my life. And, you know, maybe they inadvertently arrange the cards. So this seems like a really long how do tarot cards work kind of video, but there's so much to take into consideration if you're going to try to make up your mind about how tarot cards work, that it was important for me as a teacher to talk to you about all of your options. And there are lots of options of, you know, how tarot cards work for divination, how tarot cards work for fortune telling, how tarot cards work if you're trying to get a read on the stock market, how they work if you, on and on and on, right? On and on and on. And I will tell you that I have found over the years throughout the umpteen classes and at this point at least thousands of people that I've trained, I will tell you that I urge you to open yourself to intuitive tarot, because no matter who is sitting in front of you as a client, they don't care what the cards mean. Now, some of them do. If they know, you know, if you get other readers or hobbyists or collectors or whatever, they're very interested in the cards because they at least have a cursory knowledge of what the cards mean. But by and large, the majority of people that will come to you, they don't know, and they don't care. They just want the answers to their questions, and they want you to prove why what you're saying is valid. They don't say it that way, and I don't know that they necessarily put it that way, but that's what they want. So when you can show them something on a card, like when I pull this River Otter card, it's one of my favorite cards, not because it's the 6 of Cups, but look at the look on that otter's face. It can mean so many different things, and it's intense. So it could be that. You could pull a beaver for them, and all you're focused on is the wood, and you might be like, what do you have going on with wood at the moment? There's something very important about the subject of wood. I actually happened to say that to a client one time, and I'd never seen her before, and guess what? She was in acupuncture school, and the element that she was particularly having a hard time with was the wood element. And lo and behold, Beaver had a message for her about the wood element. Not putting in wood floors in her house, not building a log cabin, not should I plant this tree, should I take down this tree, not I'm, devastated because of the forest fires in Australia. None of those things. It was about working with the wood element in Chinese medicine, acupuncture to be specific. Really? Really? Really, animal allies? Of course they're going to be there and there for us, but I'm going to go ahead and wrap up now, but I hope that you can have an overview of how tarot cards work, more about reading tarot for yourself or other people, And really, maybe that you'll consider really turning some attention to intuitive tarot, because if I had only just told her, if I had just spewed what the Seven of Cups meant, okay. Determination, sure. She's going to, was she determined to get this right so she could graduate and become an acupuncturist? Of course. But that wasn't the crux of the problem. The crux of the problem was the wood element. Now, if I hadn't been pulling my cards and Beaver hadn't happened to be the Seven of Cups, she wouldn't have gotten the same response. If I had just regurgitated out what somebody once upon a time decided that the Seven of Cups meant in tarot card meanings, and I pay attention to that. I want to know, but I'm also confident enough, and I just have too much data to pull from. I've watched absolute beginning tarot readers who are terrified. They're not confident. They're scared they're going to get something wrong. They're scared they're going to look like idiots. Give unbelievably detailed and accurate readings because they let themselves be wild. They let themselves be free of the traditional meanings, and they trusted in the cards. They trusted in the universe. They trusted in whatever it is out there that runs this whole circus that we're in, right? So sometimes people just can't do that. They can't let go. I hope you're not one of them. I hope you will, or even if you know you're one of them, maybe step out of your comfort zone, get a little wild, right? And try your hand at more intuition. I've just watched it over the years create such a richer experience, a more accurate, more evidential experience for the reader and for the client as well. So there you have it. There is my take on how tarot cards work. Bottom line, I don't know. If you find out and you can prove it beyond a shadow of a doubt, let me know. I want to know. Until then, I'm going to continue to believe in the magic. I'm definitely going to continue to trust my animal allies, which is funny. I looked down because I was like, oh, let me just pull a random card. And here's the bunny, which is, I don't think you can read it. It's the Seven of Pentacles, but it's about reaping what you sow. And it's about consistency and perspective. So as long as my perspective is the trust, as long as I keep putting the trust out there, then I'm going to reap what I sow. I'm going to reap lots and lots of good reasons to continue that trust, not only in the animal allies, all the animal spirit guides, whatever you believe in, angels, pixies, God, dust storms, I don't know. It can be anything. But I will say that properly handled and properly respected and properly honored, all tarot cards can be a tool that creates some amazing life-changing results. And so that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you benefited from this. And again, only because my publisher is on me to market. Sorry, so I'm going to do it quick. Remember to get your copy of the Arc Animal Oracle and Tarot deck. It is the most comprehensive animal deck out there, which is true. There are 149 cards available, and I am one of the only tarot decks that have such a huge guidebook. It's a 372-page guidebook, all color, and it's got what the tarot card meaning of the animal is, as well as its meaning as a spirit, totem, and power animal. And then there are oracle cards, and that's a subject for another video. But if it's an animal that's not assigned to a tarot card and it's an oracle card, then you'll see its expanded meaning as an oracle card and a spirit, totem, and power animal. So that's it, you guys. Stay wild. Have a wonderful, wonderful week, month, life, year, just whatever it is, make it wonderful and make it wild.